because
Well, I love being part of you guys' lives. I love you being part of my life. You know, I do. And even when everything goes down,
focus.
we're going to be, uh, you know, we're going to be together. We're going to be together. That's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dr. Yared, you will be a leader in the tribes of Israel. I know that for sure. I can see it.
Hope so.
I can know it's for sure. It's for sure. You know, all of you, your whole family, people that love Yah, we're all going to be that way. You know, he's going to give the download of all downloads to us. You know, man, what an amazing Elohim that we have. How merciful he is. Do you guys have any questions from our lesson today? Any thoughts that you guys are thinking about? Anything that kind of got you puzzled or made you kind of wince a little bit?
I didn't.
Not really.
I kind of thought about the letter. Well, not it wasn't a letter. How Yah was speaking to the nations. How they kind of took in the New Testament on Paul's letters to the nations, or Paul's letters, and try to copy that.
Yeah, you're right. See, boy, you just opened a can of worms, because you know they got to be out their mind, because the bottom line is Yah has said things to us, and he says the things that I've said to you, I've only revealed them so you can learn the Torah. So anything that's ever been revealed, it's only been to bring you to the Torah, because that's the goal. The goal is to get the download. You see? But if you don't have an appreciation, you don't value it right now, you'll never get to that goal, ever. That's what he's saying. The Torah, you guys, is like, it's our life. And that's why he's created us. That's why we were born. We're the ones who's supposed to keep these instructions. So that's why he says, my children have provoked me to my face. I've taught these kids, and we're his children. You understand what I'm saying? And so he got these group of kids going through time, and they just keep going against him, keep going. And he's like, man. And finally at the end, here comes Yared, here comes Akoti, Pam, and Kavika, and here comes all of us saying, hey, I want to do what you say. I want to do it. He said, you sure? Yeah, I want to do it. Praise be to the living Elohim. Today, we're going to transition into the final part of class number 15, lesson number 15. So let's get started. I was waiting for someone else to get on, but I guess they haven't been able to arrive yet, and that's fine. Let me pull this out right quick. And I am recording, so that's cool. Yeah, we're going to deal with this wa. We're going to deal with the wa. Here you go. All right. So in our lesson number 15, which we're going to go to in just a second, we're back in lesson number 5, I believe. Or 7. We're in lesson 7. Lesson number 15 refers to this in particular rule that we went over before, okay, which is the rule number 11, right? And so this has to do with what they call the reversing wa. We know in lesson number, or rule number 3, they tell us that the wa means and. We know that, right? But again, it functions as a conjunction. It connects words together, right? But here it says that this is reversing. It's reversing. And so what is it reversing? Well, it's going to show us how it reverses, okay? And it's going to tell us a little bit more about the rules, because earlier in this lesson here, in lesson number 7, they didn't go into all the details of it. All we found out was that we learned on page number, or lesson, I forgot what lesson it is, but page number 3, in rule number 3 that the wa in front of a word means and. Okay. It could be in front of, father, like here it is, av, meaning father, and then and is the wa, and then aim is the mother. So it means father and mother, right? That's our example. Now we're going to learn that if there is a wa in front of a verb, not just a regular word, in front of a verb, okay, not only does it mean and, so it means and, but it also means something else. It can change the verb in the past tense to a future tense, and it can change a verb in the future tense to a past tense. This is a reason why they're calling it a reversing wa. Okay. The Hebrew, or the way that they call it right here, is the wa hahipuk. Of course, you're not going to remember that. Okay. You're just going to remember that it reverses. And I'm pretty sure if I was to look it up, this word hahipuk means to reverse. It means to change directions, more than likely. Okay. So what they do is they use different Hebrew words to describe the action. That's what they're doing. That's what it is. More than likely, that's what it is. So here, if something is in the past on a verb, it'd change it to a future tense. And if the verb, the action, is something that's in the future tense, it'd change it to the past tense. And that seems a little confusing at times, because you're like, well, how are we supposed to know that? And what does it mean? Well, we're going to go into that today in our lesson. Here's some examples. Okay. I say shamarti. Okay. What's the 3-letter root?
Shamar.
Great. So if that's the root, T is I, and that's in the past tense. Why is it past tense?
It's at the end.
Yes, because that sufformative or suffix is added to the end of it. So if it's at the end, it's in the past. Okay, the end, it's in the past. This is on the end of it. So it's in the past. Good job. Okay. Now, when they add that wa to it, here's the and here's the wa. It means and I will guard. Okay. So this seems a little confusing because we know I will in front of something is an aleph, that means I will. If it's a tav, it's what?
You
will. If it's a yod, it's what? He will. You understand? So we got that down. If it's a noon, what is that?
They.
We
Me.
will. Yes. Good job. All right. And those are called performatives because they're on the front of the word. They're added to the front, which is a future tense. Okay. But we see here in this example that there is no letter added to the front besides the conjunction and. So why is it, if I just cut this off right here, it'd be, and I will guard. I will guard. But if that was the case, it would be Eshmor. That's what it would be. It would be Eshmor. But it's not. It is Shamarti. Wa Shamarti. Okay. Wa Shamarti. So what happened? Why did this still say, and I will guard? Well, what happened was when they added this wa right here, is being used to turn a past tense, because that's what this is up here. That's a past tense, means it's already done, to a future tense by adding this letter here. Okay. So let's look at the note here. The wa not only means and, it also changes the past tense into a future tense. Okay. And just the opposite, it will change a future tense into a past tense. And here's our second example. And again, you can always go back and look at your lessons. It's lesson number 7. So the yod here represents what?
E.
E. Thank you. And then that means let's be more specific, more definite. He will. That's one thing I have a problem with, because I say, yeah, it's he, but it's really he will. Okay. Because it's in the future. It's a future tense because it's added to the front of the 3-letter root. Okay. This right here is at the end of the root. This is in the front of the root. So he will guard. That's what that is. Perfect. Okay. I mean, you said it perfectly. It means he will guard. Okay. Now, when you add that wa to it, it changes it. Well, what changes are made? What changes do you see in example number 2 in Yishmor versus what you see in this example underneath it? What do you see? Let me make it larger so I can get you to really see what we're talking about. Here you go. What are the differences? Look at it very carefully. Huh?
The first letter, yeah, that one.
Yeah, so we got the and, right? What else is different? What else is added?
Looks like a dot in the yod.
Yes. What does that dot and that yod mean?
Double up.
Yeah, double up. I like that. Double up. Okay. So that doubling up, that's called a geminate. That doubling up will give you this word here, y, and then it would be y shamor. Okay. Or y, no, here, let me see. Y, and then yish more. Okay, why Yishmor? I just wrote it out in English. The Y here is the yod, right? This I right here represents the yod. Okay, so that's a yod and that's a yod. Okay, so why Yishmor? Because I got 2 yods. One yod is going to go, and let me bring it up here. Since there's a dot right there, like you guys brought out, since it's 2 yods now, so one yod will go with this, and another yod will go with this. That's why I came up with Y and then Yish. The reason why it's the ish is because there's a dot right here that tells me that's the I sound. Okay, Yish. And here's the SH, which is the shin. Yish. Why Yishmor? Okay. So those are the differences. So you can see it. So obviously, you know, there's some difference there, right? Something's added, but also too, you have a geminate, a doubling up, a twin that's there. So you got to get 2 yods. So one is pronounced with the Y and the other one is pronounced with the actual next letter. Okay. So why Yishmor? So Yishmor is future tense, meaning he will guard. Very simple. Look at the puzzle. He will. That's right here. He will. This is what this means. He will. That yod right there in that position. Okay. Shamor right here. That's guard. That's it. That's the puzzle. Yishmor. He will guard. Now this and he guarded. That means he's now changing from a future tense. Is no longer a future tense, but now it has changed it into a past tense. Okay. And the reason for that is because this wa not only means and, but it means I'm going to reverse the tense. Okay. I'm going to reverse the tense. Now we're going to, so that's the basic understanding of this. Okay. And then they're going to tell us, well, you know, we're not going to go into detail here because we're too early in the lessons. You haven't learned enough, right? But you and I are in chapter number or lesson number 15. So we have learned enough now to understand this latter part of it. Okay. Let me go to this right here. Here's some other examples that you would see in lesson number 7. Is going to show you how things are changed, right? Same identical thing that we learned from 2 and 1 and 2. Now it's 3 and 4. But here's the note. It says, please note that not every wa changes the tense. It's not, so it's not always be, it always changes it to the future or the past. So some simply mean just and that's all. That's all it means. And so they said here that we're going to come back later to discuss how to differentiate between the reversing wa and the standard wa. However, until then, we simply rely on context of the sentence to see if the wa change the tense or of the verb or not. So the wa's determination of changing or reversing anything always has to do with a verb. Okay. That's one thing that I want you to remember. If you're dealing with a verb, okay, and you should know your verbs because your vocabulary tells you what something is. I say shamar, that's guarding. That's not a noun, it's a verb. Okay. But when you're talking about reversing or anything like that, it always has to do with a verb, not with you can't reverse a noun. Okay. But there's was that are added to nouns like father and mother. Those are nouns. Okay. It says one last point about this wa hipuk, the reversing wa. It says when you add this wa ha hipuk, which we call the reversing wa, to a verb whose last root of the letter is a hey, like in our example, ra'a or ra'e or haya, then the verb in the future tense, the hey falls off of the end of the verb. And then they give you some examples to show you what happens when you add that reversing. So that's another part of the rule. That, of course, you have to see it and you have to be a reader of the text in order to know, it says it's not going to go wayire like you see right here. It's not going to go wayire. It's not going to do this simply by adding hahupuk onto the front of the verb. Since this is a hey on the end and that's a weak verb, that hey is going to drop off. And then when you add that wa, and what you're left with is wayar. That's all. Wayar versus wayire. Okay. So that drops off. That's basically what they're telling you. Okay. And then haya, the same thing. It'd be wahi. Okay. Versus wahaya. See? So those things right there, that's just another rule that you have to understand. And you have to familiarize yourself with this when you do what? When you're reading and you're understanding, okay, well, where did that letter is? Why did they say, that this dropped off? And one of the things that I use, that's why I go to the Bible Hub, is simply because in the Bible Hub, they give you all of the explanation. They tell you the verbs and all that kind of stuff, and you can look at it for yourself. So it helps you to like, well, why did it says why year? It said, what's the root? Oh, they dropped the hey off. Oh, because of that rule. Oh, because it's a weak verb. Oh, it's a reversal on that one. Oh, okay. So now I need you to remember that anytime you add a wa to a noun, it doesn't change. But if it's about an action, it can change the action from the past to the present, or excuse me, to the future, or the future to the past on a verb. Okay. So in our lesson 15, as you see right here, lesson number 15, now they're going to tell us more information about this wa hipuk, okay, the reversing wa. It says we learned on page 51 that the wa in front of the verb in the past tense changes it to the future tense. And the wa, you say, well, what is this? That's the wa. What it really is that's what it is. Okay. That's what it is. They just put it like this, and then they put this because they want to put a vowel there, and then they put the next one right here. But that's the same thing as this up here. Okay. The Ashkenazi call it the vav. Okay. Because they're trying to make it their own, but it's not a vav, it's a wa. Okay. There is no letter V in the Hebrew language. There's a sound. Somebody tell me where the sound comes. What letter does the V sound come from? Yes, the bet. So the bet has the dot right here, and then the next one doesn't have it. Okay. This gives you the V sound because it doesn't have that dot. When it has the dot, it's the hard B sound. Good job. All right. So it says that we mentioned that not all of the was are the wa hahupuk, the reverse ones. They don't reverse. They simply mean and no more, meaning that they don't change the tense. The tense of the verb means either the past or the present. These are tenses, or the future. Okay. See? And what else do we always, that's all it changes. It can change the past, it can't change the present, but that's a tense and it can change the future. And they're going to tell us why here in a second, which makes a lot of sense. Okay. Because if you're going to learn something, you got to know why. That's what you want to know. You just don't want to. Sometimes you'll get the answers and sometimes you won't, right? Like I didn't know what a semikuth was until I kept reading the Hebrew text, and I found out, oh, that word semikuth is used for the two goats. That's the reason why they're using it here, because they're putting their hands on the two nouns. And then when they put it there, it's in a semikuth form. Oh, I get it. Okay. So now we're going to learn. So we learned this just a few moments ago. Okay. Now we're going to learn this. We're going to learn now, however, that one way of telling for sure that the wa is not the wa hihipuk, is not reversal. They're going to tell us how we can learn that, how it's not. Okay. And the way that you can tell if it's in the future, a wa hihipuk, meaning a reversing, because that's what this means. Let's just keep it simple. If it's reversing or not reversing, it can it change it or it cannot can change it. So one of the ways that they do this, okay, is that if the verb is in the future tense, that means that the verb has a letter in front of it. The wa is going to be voweled with this, and I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it. You say, well, how important is this? It's very important. It's super important. It's going to be voweled, meaning they're going to put these vowel points underneath it as this. Like right here, here's our example. Okay. So this is how you would know that it is not reversing. Is not reversing the verb's action. Okay. It's not changing from a past to a future. It's not doing it, or a future to the past. It's not reversing it. And this is just something that you have to remember. That's all. Okay. Because they're going to vowel it with those things which are called a schwa. That's what they're going to use right here, these two dots. So if you see that under a wa, you know at this moment that it means and that's it. Okay. So if that's the case, then you and I should know if they put something else underneath there, that would give you an indication that it is a reversal. And they're going to give us some examples. Okay. So let's see the examples. And you're going to get a copy of this, of course. It just means and. Okay. That's all it means. And it doesn't change. Doesn't change it. So here are the examples. Number one. What letter in this word in number one, the first one that you see, what letter is we that's represented by we?
The noon?
Yes, absolutely. Bingo. Right here. So when the noon is added to the front, it's a future tense. It means we will. See, I got to catch myself always. We will, not just we will. And it's we will because it's in the front. That means it's in the front of something, meaning it's going to happen in the future. Okay. So if that's the case, then I know the next three letters are the root, which is makor. Okay. So makor means to sell, right? Just another piece to the puzzle. Now that's what it means. We will sell. We will sell. Easy. Nimkor means we will sell. So a two-syllable word, one word here with two syllables gives us three different words. Isn't that beautiful? A 1-to-3 ratio. So if you learn 300 words in Hebrew, right? Over here, it would be 900. They use 900 words when you would use 300. Why is this important? Because this is an exact language. It's very concrete, and they don't play games, and they don't just do a whole bunch of talking, okay, and saying a whole bunch of words for nothing. They get right to what they need to say. You see? So our example here is, the next one is, you see that they added that geminate right here, that little dot. So that means to double down, double up. So let's break this down. And, which is right here, we, right here, sold. Okay. So it went from we will to we sold, past tense. It's saying that the wa that is there is a reversing. It's reversing the action, or the tense, better said. So it went from a future to a past tense, because that's what this reversing wa does. Okay. So what do we know? We understand, if you look at the vowel that's underneath it, it's not the two dots. It's this. That's what it is. It's this. So that tells you that it's a reversing wa. If it was this with the two dots on it, that means it's just and. Okay. So let's look at the next example underneath it. Everything here looks exactly the same as this one. This one looks exactly like this. However, the only changes are what? What are the changes? What are the differences that you see?
It's not a Gemini anymore on the noon.
It's not a geminate, right? So if it doesn't, that's another indicator. That's another sign that says, okay, so if there's no geminate, then I say this by itself. If there is a geminate, I say I have to create another noon. So one noon will go with this, and then the next noon will go with this. So that one right there is called Y, and then Nim. Y Nim core. You see? Y. Okay. Let me see. No, that's not Y. Here it is. My, forgive me. I thought it was Yod. Wan. Wan. Here's that noon. Nim core. That's the other noon right here. I got two of them now. That's a geminate. Okay. That's two of them. That's what a noon with that geminate in it, that doubling up, that's that double. Okay. If it was a yod, it'd have that, and that means make two yods, a yod to go with the wa, and then the yod to go whatever the root is. Okay. See? So based on what we've learned, if it has a geminate in the second letter, then you should know that that is a reversing wa. So there's two things that tell you it's a reversing wa. Is this the vowel point underneath it? And the second thing, it has that dot, which we would call, I just call it a geminate, a twin, but there's another Hebrew word for it called a dagesh. And it's to call it a dagesh forte, which we're going to get into later when we get into more of our verbal system. All right. Because that dagesh forte has a twin. And who's his twin? He got a twin. His twin is called dagesh leni. They look exactly alike. They both look like what? A dot. So you got to know what is this dot? Is he a dagesh leni or is he a dagesh forte? You understand what I'm saying? So these are just the different points that you'll learn. And you'll be like, okay, I know what these dots mean. So if you really break it down, everyone, you would notice that the dots and the vowel points and all these different things is what is determining how words are said, because these look exactly alike until you look at the points underneath them, you know, exactly alike until you look at these features, you know, this right here and this right here. That's all it is. Because once you know the vocabulary word, then you got to put the pieces together. And then when you put the pieces together, you'd be like, okay, well, you know, what does this right here mean? You know, well, that means that you say it as one is joined together. So the 2 dots underneath the mem right there doesn't mean the 2 dots that are under the wa. It means something totally different. Depending on the location where it's at, it could be under the wa. If it's under the wa, then you know it means and. If it's under the mem, it doesn't mean the same thing as it means. And that's what confuses us because we don't know what these points are. But you're learning them. Right now, you should be encouraged, because I'm encouraged, because we're understanding that it's these things that is really the issue with our understanding. These things are what's causing the problems, because you and I don't know what they mean. But the moment that you and I discover what they mean, then things will start making sense to us. Okay.